So I think I first made the Canadian development team in 1992 and competed for many years on the World Cup freestyle ski circuit. I was good at sport, but I just wanted to go party and have fun with friends. And I stopped racing and made the team. And it was like a new life for me. Don't blow this. The mindset's everything. It's everything. We also have to be, I think, really conscious of mental challenge versus mental health threat. And if you get caught in the middle, maybe sometimes people pull away from something thinking it's a threat when really it's a challenge. There's probably a lot of athletes who are like, I'd rather be the Pipe Masters champion. But also, people in every country in the world understand what is the Olympics.
Hello everyone, I'm super excited. I'm starting a new challenge in my life, my first English videocast. And I have done so because my guest helped me tackle another challenge. Trampoline tricks like flips and backflips, similar to what surfers now do on big and small waves. When I was competing in big wave surfing, no one was doing these tricks. Thanks God. Now at 57, I'm learning them with one of the best. Join me and the Olympian Trennon Paynter, former head coach of the Canadian ski team, for this exciting conversation. I've been hanging out with this guy for a couple weeks. I'm very tired. He made me tired.
He works hard.
Yeah.
He's been working real hard.
Let me introduce this guy. He is an Olympian halfpipe ski head coach for Canada. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Yeah, and why we got connected? We got connected because we came, it's actually the second year already. We came to do this camp at Nazareth for the Red Bull team, surfing Red Bull team. And you guys are wondering why a ski head coach, half-pipe ski head coach is doing here at the surfing camp. And that's why we're gonna talk about how important it is for surfers nowadays to get related to the air show game. Tell me your background, please, where you come from, and when everything started.
So if I go all the way back to the start, I was actually born in Australia. But my parents are both Canadian. They were adventure people. They got married, they went to Australia, they had a couple babies, my brother and I. They built a sailboat, we lived on it. And when I was about 5 years old, we moved back to Canada, to a really small little ski town in the Canadian Rocky Mountains.
So do you have two passports?
I do.
Okay.
I have a Canada passport and an Australia passport. It's great. Now, all of a sudden, I was this little beach kid living in a mountain town. And both my parents their background, they were ski racers. So they started a ski racing program in Kimberley, where I grew up. And so I went skiing all the time. What was really nice was they had night skiing at our resort. So some skier kids can only ski on weekends or school holidays. I could go every day because we had night skiing. So for me, it was every day after school, straight to the ski hill.
What about your brother?
My brother too. And he's an incredible athlete too. And so we were just growing up on skis. I did a lot of ski racing, but I also really liked hitting jumps. I wanted to hit jumps and do tricks. And so eventually I kind of drifted out of racing and I got into freestyle skiing, and especially the mogul skiing, so skiing through the bumps. And at the time it was kind of a new Olympic sport, and I got really into it. And I started to compete. I started doing well. I eventually made it onto the Canadian team. And then I spent many years competing.
When was that?
In the 90s.
In the 90s?
Yeah. So I think I first made the Canadian development team in 1992 and then moved into the World Cup team and competed for many years on the World Cup freestyle ski circuit. And eventually I made it to I skied a few world championships, and I ultimately skied in the Olympics in 2002, which was just an incredible experience for me. So during that time, in the summer, there's a ski camp in Whistler that has a glacier, and you can go up there and you can ski in the summertime. And there were these summer ski camps where pro skiers would go and they'd coach kids. And so it was a great way for us as pro skiers to have a really fun summer job. You'd go to the glacier, you'd get a group of kids. They're all so stoked because for them it's like, I get to go skiing in the summer, and one of the pros is my coach. And so I just found that I really enjoyed coaching.
How old were you?
This was in my 20s and into my 30s. When I skied in the Olympics, I was 32. So I was I actually had, if I back up, I had ski raced and then I stopped. I just got kind of probably a little bit of a bad path. I was good at sport, but I just wanted to go party and have fun with friends. And I stopped racing. And a few years went by and I was like, that sport life was better than what I'm doing now. I wasn't doing anything.
Yeah, I had the same track on my career too,
Yeah.
But I was younger than you when I realized it.
Yeah, so sort of from 16 to 19, 20, I didn't do much. I just, and I realized, man, I was good at skiing. I love skiing. And I got back into it. I actually got a job as a ski patrol at a ski hill. And so I was just skiing around, doing first aid on people. And because we had so many good moguls on our mountain, I skied the moguls all the time. And there was a run right under the chairlifts with lots of moguls. And I was good and I liked to show off. I was the guy under the chairlift, like, watch this, everyone. I'd go. And so that's kind of that's what got me into the moguls. And then eventually competition, made the team. And it was like a new life for me. I was like, this is an opportunity, right? Don't blow this. So I think because I had stepped away and then stepped back, I valued it so much. I was like, oh, this is so cool. And all of a sudden I was like, I'm on the national ski team. Are you kidding, right?
How important it is the mindset?
The mindset's everything. It's everything, right? It's how you approach growth in sport. That's how you approach growth of the human. And I think you make a really good point. Things now, in many ways, and on purpose, we've tried to find ways to make it easier for people to succeed, because that's our job as a coach. How do I help make an easier step for this person to get to the next level? And it's everything from how we design training programs, and can we come up with a good, safe progression, skill to skill. It's the tools we use. We now can use, maybe we have an airbag, right? You have jet skis in the water. There's all these, we've used technology and we've used the experience of all the people before us to eliminate some of the real hardships. There's a real positive to that, but I think you bring up a good point. Is there a negative to that? Is some of the struggle and challenge that maybe older generation athletes had to go through to get to that point, does it create a different skill set? Do you have a more resilient person? Even the concept of, and this is a really delicate concept, the concept of mental health in sport. It's very good that as a society and as sport, we're more conscious of it and we're aware and we can help people through hard times. But sometimes you wonder, does the pendulum swing too far? And can an athlete today distinguish the difference between something that's just really, really hard and a challenge that's very uncomfortable, or something that's a true threat? So I think challenge versus threat maybe gets a bit blurred now. Again, I want to be really careful talking about this because I think the last thing I want to do is give the impression that I'm not really, really conscious about how we treat mental health and mental health challenges. But we also have to be, I think, really conscious of mental challenge versus mental health threat. And if you get caught in the middle, maybe sometimes people pull away from something thinking it's a threat when really it's a challenge.
How important it is to have people that takes care of the mental health.
In our program, we certainly have resources to mental performance consultants, a lot. Some of that often blends into, are we dealing with a mental performance issue? Is this about performance on demand? Or is this actually more of a, just kind of a mental health challenge need? Sometimes we'll transition athletes out of dealing with our MPC, who's really performance sport oriented, to give them some additional support on that side. So making sure that you're really broad, like you're open to, hey, we don't we can get a lot by spreading our network, spreading our web, and thinking outside of just the kind of classic model.
And I never thought that one day I would go for a camp, for a big wave camp, and I would have, someone from skiing world, coming with a trampoline. I coach for the Canadian team and teach me how to do some tricks. Actually was the first time that I landed my backflip, and so, was amazing.
Make sure he posts his backflip video for this, because it's good.
Yeah, I was so stoked and so happy. For how long have you been coaching?
I was coaching, as I said, when I was an athlete, I would coach in the summer times. But
that counts too. That counts.
Yeah. So I started that in 1995.
Long time ago.
I started coaching
30 years ago almost.
Yeah, 30 years ago. And then I retired from full-time competition after the 2002 Olympics. I still competed a little bit here and there, and my career wasn't pure athlete, so I'm like, I need a job. So I got a job as a coach. And I started with a provincial ski program, and that quickly evolved into some really good athletes starting to have needs beyond a provincial program. Our sport, ski halfpipe at that time, it was big in the industry. So it was X Games, it was Dew Tour, it was really supported well by sponsors. The ski companies, the clothing companies, they were all over halfpipe because it was new. And so it was so big in the industry, and we had some of the biggest events, but ski halfpipe wasn't in the Olympics yet. At first, it was only snowboard halfpipe in the Olympics. And so every 4 years, it's like, hey, there's this big halfpipe contest. It's only the snowboarders. We don't get to go. And so I wanted that experience for our athletes, and I expected that it was going to happen. But because at a national sport level, all the money and the funding for programs is tied to Olympics, we had this really strange gap, because we had provincial grassroots programs. They knew this is what kids wanted to do. So you had clubs, park and pipe. You had provincial team, park and pipe, because that's so many kids wanted to do it. But because it wasn't in the Olympics yet, at a national level, there was no national team, because they couldn't get Sport Canada, sport organization budget for it because of that non-Olympic thing. So now I have athletes, and they're getting better, and they're getting better. And it's like, hey, you're better than a provincial team. We need to go to a World Cup. You should go to, we're going to X Games, and we're doing really well. We're winning. And it's like, we need to support you. You're at the level where if this was normal, a normal traditional sport, you would now move into the national team. But there is no national team. So what next, right? And a lot of athletes would just, off they go on their own. And a lot of athletes were thriving. That was what they wanted. They wanted the independence, make their own decisions. But some, and especially these ones I was working with, because they had the experience of some support and a little bit of structure. We had to be careful. We didn't want to go too much structure, but a little bit, and direction. They were into this model of, hey, let's try. If there was a national team, they would have loved to move on to it, but there wasn't. I said, well, let's just do it. Let's just become our own team. And we didn't really have anyone outside to support it, so it was really a private athlete-driven thing. They were raising some money, and they were helping support it, and we were a small group. It was like one car, one condo, and we just made it happen.
From the heart,
From the heart, yeah. And knowing, and we were pushing the international organizations, like ski halfpipe should be Olympic. Let's go, get it in. We wanted it.
Yeah.
We really wanted it in.
Yeah, wait a minute. I got something special here. I can feel it too. I got connected with your story once again. You're doing something because you love so much. You didn't have that much support because, you didn't get your discipline, your category on the Olympic Games, but you were probably the best out there teaching these kids, and you guys are succeeding, but the money wasn't there yet.
Yes.
So you guys were the underdogs, doing a great job. And then the Olympic Games steps in, and then all of a sudden you got all the budget. How big is the change between being an Olympic sport and not being one?
It's pretty big. It for me, I don't think there's any experience that is like the Olympics. And I know some athletes have a little more of a real core attitude to their sport, and so there's probably a lot of athletes who are like, I'd rather be the pipe masters champion than the Olympic champion because that's the heart of our sport. That's the core of it. And that is something really cool and pure and respectful. But also, when you go to the Olympics, it's so much more than one sport, and that's what makes it so special. You know that people in every country in the world understand what is the Olympics, right? Countries rally behind their athletes at the Olympics. So you have so much more of I'm here representing a country, and there's all these people who would never ever pay attention to my sport, whatever that is, but they're tuned in right now and they're into it. And I love it, man. Like, I watch the Olympics and I'm getting tears in my eyes watching all these sports that I never watch because you get so connected to the emotion of the athlete. Like, I just think that experience is so special. And in part because it only happens every 4 years. You don't get to try it all the time. You know, some athletes only get one shot ever at it, or maybe two, right? It's so cool. Like, I remember moving into the start and like, this is it. It's the Olympics, and there's a stadium full of people. And you're just like, whoa, man, like, is this ever cool? Like, it'll stay with me for my life. To me, that's the heart of it. It's what you experience as an athlete, just the feelings you get, which are really hard to recreate. You get epic feelings throughout all of it, but it's a really unique one.
For me, there is no difference between being a professional surfer and Olympic surfer. You know, like, there is no half professional. Whenever you become a professional surfer or a professional athlete, is there anywhere that you say, no, I cannot go beyond this point because I think, you know, it's not good for my community?
Well, I think it gets really challenging, and there's a balance, and it can become really complicated, especially if you pull back to, well, where's the money coming from, right? Because ultimately, if you're saying, what does it mean to be a professional surfer? It's like, well, is that someone who's trying to make a living at it? And okay, well, where is the money coming from? Is it from the industry? Is it from a governing body? What gets you further? Some sports, the Olympics is their big moment. So the Olympics might be that thing that breaks you through to a wider audience and opens up a lot for you in terms of the professional side, your business opportunity, your chance to make a living. There's also, I think, a lot of room, though, for the way I've always looked at it is no one has to make the Olympics their target. If that's not your passion, like, I think there are some different directions, right? What I found really hard to take was people who weren't competitors, who were saying, this shouldn't be in the Olympics. I'm like, I know the competitors, they want that experience. And you're not even a competitor, and you're saying they shouldn't be able to have it. It's like, that's not fair, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, because for us, it was like most of the athletes who were the best in the world, they wanted to go into the Olympics.
One day I was sitting at the breakfast with you, and Matt from the Distinct Lab, he asked you, what's the most important emotion that you find in an athlete that will motivate him to do something special? And your answer was...
Belief.
It
goes all the way back to, I think, one of the best examples in sport, in performance, in even just human evolution is the 4-minute mile, right? You know the story of the 4-minute mile?
No.
For so many years, when there was a race, 1-mile race, and there was this barrier in 4 minutes, and nobody had ever run faster than 4 minutes. And scientists were saying, oh, it's just beyond the limits. And one day, a guy, I think his name was Roger Bannister, he broke it, and he ran it in, 3:59 or something. And right away, within the span of years, a whole bunch of other people did it. And so what changed? But why was it that had just never been broken, and then all of a sudden, people started hitting it? It's because all of a sudden they believed it was possible. And if you believe something's possible, you do it. And we see it in action sports so much, right? Like, look at how many things people do now. If you went back 30 years and were like, hey, do you think someone could do a double backflip on a motorbike take their hands off the bars? And they're like, no, that's not possible, right? But now people are doing it. They have so much more belief that it will work that it makes it so much easier to learn.
And I heard your first encounter with the Red Bull team was more than a decade ago and left a lasting impression.
So let me get into that. I had one of my athletes was a Red Bull athlete. His name's Noah Bowman. He's been one of the athletes I've coached for the longest time. He's still competing today. At the time, he was Red Bull and he got invited to a Red Bull performance camp on snow. And a friend of mine who was working with Red Bull had called me and said, hey, we're putting on a performance camp. It's going to be in New Zealand. It's these dates. We're inviting Noah, and we always extend an invitation to the athletes' coaches if they want to come. I said, okay, I'll go. And I'm like, what this will probably be is they'll have a couple things in place and it'll just be gathering content. How much is this going to help my athlete? I was like, well, a little bit, because any time on snow in a good pipe is good. Sure, I'll go. But I showed up and the people they had in place, they had some of the best minds in sports science. They had one of the guys running the program at the time. He had been a World Cup downhill ski racer coach, right? And this wasn't a downhill ski racing camp, but it was someone he had been Lindsey Vohn's coach, one of the best athletes of all time, Olympic athletes. And right away, within 2 days, I'm like, okay, this is about performance. But I'm like, the heart of this is really pure performance. They were just providing so much. It was awesome. And then they brought in, it was ski and snowboard and the skiers and snowboarders. So there's this crossover energy and you have all the best people kind of frothing on each other and creating it. So it was creative, but it was so performance driven and just unlike what I expected from a sponsor camp. I'm like, no, this is a performance camp.
Why do you think trampoline training is so transformative for athletes, especially in action sports?
I think in large part, if you look at the time spent in the air, there's no greater way to do that than trampoline. So right away, you're increasing the amount of time that you're controlling yourself through the air exponentially.
You're getting used to it.
Yeah, you're getting used to it. And so even if there's no direction whatsoever, so every second that you're just flying through the air, your body is learning something about how to control itself through the air. And there's just a million little things there. And you get more comfortable. It requires strength. It requires flexibility, mobility. I think there's a lot of sports that have airtime that you don't think about initially. Like a football goalkeeper, he dives for a ball, he's in the air. So the more you just
get used to it.
Get used to being in the air and controlling your body, it has a million tiny little benefits that we don't even understand that are helping.
Thanks for sharing your life experiences with us. And I'm looking forward to see you again, my friend.
Yes.
Thank you.
My man.